Hello, Earthlings. How are you? Welcome to the show. Welcome to First Contact Radio. FirstContactRadio.com is the place where you can find us Monday through Friday live at 8 a.m. Of course, you can find us at YouTube anytime after that. We're also at Blog Talk Radio. So we're all around the place where you can find us. All right, let's start things off with our space weather for today. Things are a bit windy. I don't know how it is in your neck of the woods, but out here in Los Angeles, it's been pretty windy. You can see the solar wind is up higher than it was yesterday. Remember, yesterday it was only in the low 400s. Today it's up to 492. It slowly picked up over the course of yesterday. In the afternoon it was 466 and now 492. Our planetary K index has been bouncing around. We're currently at 1. It's expected to be at a 3 within the next 24 hours, and it was at about a 4, bouncing between a 3 and 4 over the last 24 hours. So that's where we're at with that. And our chance for flares, pretty low. 15% chance we're going to have an M-class flare. Low chance of any geomagnetic activity, except if you're in a higher range, you're going to have like 25% chance that something's going to go on. And you can see here that there isn't any sort of near-Earth objects that are coming near the Earth that we need to be worried about. We see we have one on the 29th or the 9th of December, the 20th December, but these objects are 47 lunar distances away, 77 lunar distances away, and they're really small. The one is like 1.6 kilometers, and the other one's 1 kilometer. A big difference in comparison to the one that just went through that was 400 kilometers. So big difference. If the 400 kilometer one that passed closer than the moon to us didn't affect us, well, these aren't going to be affecting us either. And up here, NOAA forecasters estimate a 25% chance of geomagnetic high activity. That's what I just showed you around the planet. And with no sunspots producing strong flares, the sun is officially quiet. But flares are only one aspect of solar activity. For example, amateur astronomers are monitoring a plume of hot plasma rising over the sun's eastern limb. The sun is filled with activity, says Greg Pipel of the Rising Sun Observatory in Rockville, Maryland. Huge prominences, active regions, and sunspots make for an absolutely beautiful view. Theo Rammakers of Social Circle, Georgia agrees. When I saw the sun this morning, I could not believe my eyes. The prominence on the eastern limb was absolutely breathtaking, about 7 times the size of Earth. Great to see the sun is still very active. And for those of you who really haven't taken time out and spend time watching some of the sun and the various observatories that are out there, it is pretty fascinating when you see what is going on with it, the activity that it has on a regular basis. All right, let's jump to our first story of the day. And this story is about the Rapture. This comes to us from Shepherd's Chapel. There's multiple parts to this, but today I'm going to play part 1. And then the links are available so you'll be able to see the other parts. So here we go. This is part 1 of the Rapture from Shepherd's Chapel.
Good day to you. God bless you. Say, welcome to the Shepherd's Chapel. Welcome to this family Bible study hour. Guess what? We're going to redo the Rapture theory, that is to say, the soundtrack. They seem to wear out, and then it's good to talk about it again afresh and see if we can't dig a little deeper and understand with clarity what it is our Father would have us know. Is the rapture, which the word actually is not in the Word of God. I know there's a catching away. It's not rapture. The word isn't there. But there are places that if you weren't careful, you could think it was there, and we'll cover those places. But the important thing is this, to know what our Father has to say about it. His Word, not what this man, some book, or anyone else might say, but what does the Word of God have to say about it? Now, in the so-called rapture, first let's answer one question. Are we going to gather back to Christ? Absolutely. Well, in what order? Well, exactly as it's written. There's no question with anybody that we will gather back with him, but the question is where, how does it come to pass, and so forth. And to understand, we're going to take Paul's teachings on it first and declare first, we know at the seventh trump a certain thing happens. Is that the gathering back? Well, first, you must know, before you can understand the rapture theory, that we have two bodies. And if you don't understand that, you're not ready to be taught the really deep study concerning, that is to say, to go into the Scriptures concerning the rapture so-called theory. Now, with that, we're going to go to 1 Corinthians chapter 15. And actually, Paul tells us about the seventh trump here and the change of bodies and so forth. But with that, he teaches very adequately, fantastic. He was a great teacher as to how many bodies we have, what they basically, how they are formed and so forth. So let's just get right into it. Open your Bibles with me to 1 Corinthians chapter 15. And let's begin, if we may, with verse 34. And we have a flesh body that we know about. We can see that. But we also have another body. It's called a spiritual body. Verse 34, chapter 15, 1 Corinthians, and it reads, awake to righteousness. And that means awake or wake up or get some common sense about what's right. And sin not. For some have not the knowledge of God. I speak to your shame. And it is a shame to you if you're biblically illiterate. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. It's to your shame, but then you can change that. You can stop it by simply studying His Word. You don't have to become a religious fanatic, but at least familiarize yourself with the plan of your Father. Verse 35. But some man will say, how are the dead raised up? Question, do you know? Well, let's learn. And with what body do they come? In other words, what manner of body do they come in the resurrection with? It's important. Good question. He's going to answer it. Verse 36, thou fool, that which thou sowest is not quickened, that is to say, made alive, except it die. Now, in other words, he's using the analogy of a little seed of grain, and when you plant that little seed of grain, the actual seed that you plant, it actually dies and becomes the nutrient for the small embryo inside that grows into a new beautiful plant. And he would like for you to grab that analogy. And some might say, well, Paul called him fool. Now, you must learn that the manuscripts, the word fool, as it is used here, is not morose. As Christ said, call no man fool. The word is, he said, call no man morose in the Greek, which means a person that is absolutely void of any desire to ever even believe on our Father or anything else. All right, so some people, because they read English, they think they are deep Bible scholars, and sorry, that doesn't fly. So Paul said, and I don't want to digress here, but sometimes we just have to explain these sort of things. Quickened, of course, meaning to make alive, and that's the whole point, is to bring people into eternal life. Verse 37, and that which thou sowest, that seed you put in the soil, thou sowest not that body that shall be, but bare grain. In other words, you just sow the naked grain there. It may chance of wheat or of some other grain. In other words, whatever that seed is, kind after kind, that seed is going to change, and that dry, bare seed is going to become a beautiful plant, a producing plant. And that one seed, let's use corn, may produce 3 ears of corn with many rows of numerous seeds. But first, that beautiful plant. So it is with the flesh body, is what he's implying. When this old flesh body dies, and it's got to die before you can put on the spiritual body, and to everything to its time and place, we have duties here in the flesh that we must accomplish, doing our Father's work. But before you can put on that spiritual body, then the old body, the flesh, must return to the dust from whence it came. Now, let's continue on, verse 38. But God giveth it a body as it hath pleased him, and to every seed his own body. When God accomplished the creation, yes, man has seed, animals have seed, and those seed are as God intended. He doesn't like people bringing forth hybrids in plant life or anything else. He created the seed, every body from that seed, as it hath pleased him, the way he wanted it. Verse 39, all flesh, I want you to think now, all flesh, we're not talking about anything spiritual here, all flesh is not the same flesh. But there is one kind of flesh of men, another flesh of beasts, another of fishes, and another of birds. And you have all these various fleshes, everything in its own order, kind after kind, as God intended. Verse 40, listen carefully. There are also celestial, that's to say heavenly, bodies. I want to read that one more time. There are also heavenly celestial bodies, and bodies terrestrial. That means earthly, made of earth. How many does that? Can you count? All right? And I'm not talking down to you, but the glory of the celestial, the heavenly, is one, and the glory of the terrestrial is another. And so it is. We have our earthly bodies, but we also have a heavenly body, a spiritual body. And which is the best? Well, it would appear, inasmuch as the longevity of the spiritual, that the spiritual would naturally be much better, because the flesh is perishable. It grows old. It can become diseased. Things can happen to it. It can be injured. Can this happen to the spiritual body? The answer is no. It cannot. So needless to say, we all, the point being, and we don't want to pull away from that, and we're talking about, the subject here is bodies, okay? Not soul, bodies. We have a spiritual body, we have a flesh body. That's what he has said. Verse 41. There is one glory or splendor of the sun, another glory of the moon, and another glory of the stars. For one star differeth from another star in glory. And many might say, well, what does that mean? Well, in a sense, if you were to go to the 12th chapter of Revelation, you will find that the old dragon drew a third of the stars of heaven by his tail, which is, the stars of heaven are called children. And though there are billions of them, you will never find one person that's the same as another. Good day to you. God bless you. Say, welcome to the Shepherd's Chapel. Welcome to this family Bible.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk, thank you very much. This is the UFO News. You can catch the rest of that segment of the Rapture. You can follow our links to the website, and you can go see all the rest of the videos there at YouTube. There's a whole series. It's pretty good. I think you might enjoy to watch the rest of them. Okay, UFO News. We have 4 stories for you today. First story comes to us from UFOsightings.biz. Bright UFO, flashing colors seen from California to Arizona. This was case number 33719, log number. Okay, we go past all that. This was Ojai region, California. And what we've got here is a cylinder diamond fireball, 1 mile or less. I went outside, noticed the object changing colors rapidly. It looked to be flickering green, red, and white stripes. I went outside and got my binoculars. Through them, the object appeared to be moving, but I knew that this could be due to the binoculars. Alright, let's take a look at what the viewer saw. And we're going to flash through this. This video here comes to us from Sheila Aliens. And we're just going to move through this because this was a sighting that took place.
This was reported last night from Ojai, California.
Okay.
Somebody saw a flashing UFO.
So what we've got here is a UFO. It's from Ojai, California. And as we flash through, we see it says under here Tucson, Ojai. It's just going to various shots that people have taken that are all put together in this compilation. And you can see it's pretty much the same type of shape, same type of blinking, and this was seen across a couple of states. Okay. There it is again, a little bit more close up. Alright, so I'm going to leave the video for you to watch the whole thing. It's 11 minutes if you want to catch the entire thing of seeing everything that's going on here. But you get the idea of what this object is. Look at it up close. Pretty fascinating. Alright, just imagine back in the time when technology wasn't like it is right now, seeing things like this. You know, if you didn't have an understanding that the military used craft or that there were other craft coming in, just imagine how you might describe such things. And then just think of the stories in the Bible or some of the old stories we have. It all kind of makes a bit of sense. Okay, now moving right along. Our next story comes to us from the Examiner, Tracy Pierce. UFO sighting in Miami, 8 bright lights hover over local home. And there's a video to go along with this. On Monday, November 28th, the individual in Florida witnessed a UFO sighting when 8 bright white orbs hovered over local home for nearly 2 minutes. The UFO sighting was caught on camera, and the resulting footage was featured on UFO Hunter Guck. Orguck, looks like .com. The UFO footage on the left side of the page shows the 8 orbs hovering nearly motionless over a house. It was extremely dark night when the UFO sighting took place. The only lights that appear in the video are the lights in the sky and a porch light illuminating the front of the house beneath the orbs. The bright lights held their formation for a moment before slowly changing shape. Suddenly, 2 lights blinked out, one after the other. Eventually, all the lights fade, just leaving the sky dark above the illuminated home. The UFO video has been fostering some discussion on YouTube. One viewer theorized that the 8 glowing orbs were nothing more than military flares being dropped by an airplane. However, another viewer was quick to refute that theory by pointing out flares won't last that long. They burn out in less than 5 seconds after fired. Alright, let's take a look at the video, see what we think. Okay, here we go. Now look at that, a whole series of lights. Not in any particular shape or formation. And we look like we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. Alright, pretty interesting. Okay. good. Very good sighting. Very good video from Miami. Okay, our next sighting here comes to us from Australia. Witness report appeared orange-red as fast at first, but once it passed the moon, went into a bright color, only visible with the eye. This is my first sighting since moving houses. This was in Adelaide, Australia. Check this out here. Okay, you're obviously using night vision. There we go. All right, we got the object right up there in the sky. Okay, now it's described as orange-red, but we're not seeing those colors so much. I just see the white light. And just fast forward through here. Okay. And it does a little blinking in and out. Alright, looks like we got a second one up here now. And wow, that was interesting how they kind of split apart. Let me back up again. And just kind of split. One goes one direction. Looks like there's a little one down here. Alright, and now they all kind of seem to merge together momentarily. And alright, very interesting. That is down in Australia. And our last UFO story comes to us from UFO Digest. Astronaut Mark Garneau on UFOs. Jane Tabler's article, Mark Garneau's take on extraterrestrials, There Must Be Life Out There, gives us remarkable insight into the former Canadian astronaut and member of Parliament and his views on the universe. The article was posted on Wednesday, November 23rd. Garneau answered a few questions posted by Miss Tabler. Asked about extraterrestrials visiting the Earth. I know that a large number of people believe that we've been visited because they believe some of those unexplained things in the sky must be someone looking at us. Someone is looking at us, he said in an interview with the Globe. I'm not of that category, according to the article. But when it comes to having been visited by an extraterrestrial, Mr. Garneau is clear. I personally do not believe we have. Garneau was the first Canadian in space, taking part in 3 flights aboard NASA space shuttles. He was the president of the Canadian Space Agency from 2001 to 2006, and in 2003 was installed as the 9th Chancellor of Carleton in Ottawa. Garneau's NASA missions, STS-41 in 1984 and STS-77 in 96 and STS-97, which was 99 through 2000. As a Canadian, I was very proud that Mark Garneau took place in the Canadian astronaut program and was chosen to be part of the Space Shuttle program. Well, there's more to the article. He says that he doesn't believe in the extraterrestrials, but again, doesn't necessarily mean anything. And we all know from the footage that we see that has come back from space, from NASA, there's a lot of things out there. So he would have had to have seen something, and like most astronauts, is probably just remaining hush-hush on the whole situation. That's our UFO news for today. We'll jump away to a song. I'll be back. We'll continue on with our news. We got a lot more stuff to get to. Stay tuned.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of them.
9/11 was an inside job. Kennedy was killed by the CIA. Jimmy Carter saw UFO. Answers to secrets you need to know. So wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Patriots arise. It's time to demand the truth.
All right, it is time to demand the truth. Absolutely. Every single day it's time to demand the truth, especially when we have agencies that want to lie and tell us anything but the truth. All right, we're going to continue on with someone who does tell the truth, and that's Ron Paul. Good segue, right? All right, Ron Paul, he has a new ad, and this ad goes after Newt Gingrich, because Newt Gingrich is the current flavor of the month of the mainstream media. You know, it's funny just watching how the mainstream operates. They are so fickle, they'll go with one candidate until the memo comes down that they're supposed to go for another candidate, and then they all go after the next candidate. And then the memo comes and says, nope, you got to change to another candidate, and then they change. It's just watching a bunch of mindless reporters go from story to story because someone's pulling their strings and saying, now go over here, now go over there, now tell the people this, now tell the people that. It's kind of crazy, and if you watch it long enough, as you get tired of it. And a lot of people are getting tired of the wishy-washiness of the mainstream because they're just not being honest, and people are seeing that. Because inherent in everyone on this planet is a sense of honesty. And if you just tap into your own sense of honesty, you'll know what's right and what's wrong. So, let's jump over to this new ad. This is Ron Paul's new ad. It says here, Newt Gingrich, Serial Hypocrisy, New Attack ad by Ron Paul. Here we go.
I think this is the core challenge of America, is that beyond the words is a real question of policy and a real question of values and a real question of seriousness. The real question of policy.
We don't always see eye to eye, do we, Newt?
No, but we do agree our country must take action to address climate change.
Newt Gingrich has been on both sides of a long list of issues, sometimes in the same week.
I don't think right-wing social engineering is any more desirable than left-wing social engineering.
With allies like that, who needs the left?
It cuts Paul Ryan off at the knees. It supports the Obama administration. There is no explanation for it.
And a real question of value. Question of value. If you want to put people in jail, let's look at the politicians who created the environment, the politicians who profited from the environment, politicians who profited from the environment.
Newt Gingrich on the defense for taking $1.5 million.
After he left Congress, Freddie Mac paid Gingrich at least $1.6 million.
$1.6 million, some of it just before the housing market collapsed.
Newt Gingrich can ridicule Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac publicly while privately pocketing millions.
That's hardcore lobbying, and that's what Newt Gingrich was doing.
The politicians who profited from the environment.
There are now reports about controversial ties to the healthcare industry.
A think tank founded by Newt Gingrich collected at least $37 million from major healthcare companies. The group supports individual mandates.
Newt Gingrich renewed his support for an individual mandate, a key tenet of President Obama's healthcare law.
The support for an individual mandate? Folks, don't ask me to explain this.
And a real question of seriousness, question of seriousness.
Everything that Gingrich railed against when he was in the House, he went the other way when he got paid to go the other way.
You're an embarrassment to our party.
He's flipped and flopped based on who's paying him.
He's demonstrating himself to be the very essence of the Washington insiders.
It's about serial hypocrisy.
It's wrong to go around and adopt radically different positions, because then people have to ask themselves, what will you tell me next time?
Excellent ad. And that is how politics work with Newt Gingrich. You know, I don't see how people don't see through it, because before he even ran for the office of presidency, people used to know and see him and say, well, this guy's not being honest. That was just kind of the modus operandi. People understood. But suddenly he starts to run for political office and people put blinders on and forget about all the things that he did that were wrong. Americans, what's wrong with you that you are not seeing? Why are you wearing blinders? How are you fooled so easily? That's what I don't understand. I see so many Americans out there fooled so easily on a daily basis. How has that happened? You should be grateful that there's so many honest people in the world that choose not to fool you. Because if you're that naive and foolish to get fooled by the mainstream media stories, then you're easy to lie to and manipulate and whatever. And you should be fortunate that there's good people in the world that don't take advantage of your naivete and take advantage of you. Because that's very possible in the world. The ones who take advantage are the politicians, are the ones on Wall Street, are the ones in Washington, D.C. They're not being honest. The moment you come to accept this and understand this, deal whatever security issues you need to deal with, that the rug's been pulled out of your feet, underneath your feet, and you can no longer trust Washington and you don't feel secure, get over it. They haven't been there as a secure foundation for you in a long, long time. And if you really understand what Washington is doing, you'll understand more and more. They're pulling all of the bricks of the liberty and the Constitution and what the Founding Fathers put in place. They're tearing them down right in front of your very eyes. And in many cases, you're thanking them for it, thinking that it's the right thing to do. You need to really wake up and pay attention. In that regard, before I go on to the next story, let's do a little reminder here. This is the Constitution of the United States. This is the opening preamble. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. This document is a very, very important document that was created by men, the founding fathers of this country, who really had their eye on the prize. Much different than what is going on now with the administrations who are tearing things down. The Constitution should not be torn up. It was put in place to help this country become a better country, to grow. But again, there are those who don't want it to grow. They fooled you into thinking they do. Well, it's time for you to stop being fooled, don't you think? How long are you going to allow yourself to be fooled? How long? Do you let your husband fool you or your wife fool you? Do you let your kids fool you? Do you let your neighbors fool you? No, of course not. When you go to the market, do you let the people there fool you? No. You pay real close attention, but you turn on that box in your living room, and it has magical powers over your brain, and they lie to you, and you get fooled over and over and over again. And then when it's brought up that you're being fooled, you defend the very people that are fooling you. There's some things to consider, my friends. Some things to consider. All right. Now, our next story comes to us from the Occupy Wall Street movement. We've heard a lot going on with this. And let me pull this up for you here. This is a timeline of how things evolved. I thought this was a real good, thing to look at and to understand that there's a little bit more going on with the movement than what meets the eye. So here we go.
This international protest movement became one of the biggest news stories of 2011. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we'll be learning about the rise of the Occupy movement.
We're trying to determine how we feel, how everyone here feels, and at the same time we want to take it slowly and work together, because you can't build community without communication.
At the end of 2010, a series of uprisings in the Arab world began, and these revolutions served to change the status quo. This movement was referred to as the Arab Spring, and it inspired the Occupy movement in 2011. However, while the Arab Spring often resulted in violence, Occupy aimed for peaceful protests and occupations. The main goal of the Occupy movement was to address the disparity in wealth distribution that existed in societies around the world, and to challenge the influence corporations had on democracy. Early on, media found it difficult to pinpoint a clear-cut set of demands or ideals for the group. And in fact, some saw the Occupy movement as a rejection of the direction of society as a whole, and not simply a financial problem. However, anti-consumerist group Adbusters eventually suggested a Robin Hood tax as a goal for the group. The Occupy movement was made up of a variety of different types of people. However, the most common theme was unemployment.
I'm currently unemployed. I was a bike messenger for many years, and feeling that I was working for the enemy, to say, lawyers, banking companies, whatnot, I decided to say screw it all this summer, change my life and, get away from money.
One of the rallying cries of the group has been the motto, "We are the 99%. This referred to the wealth distribution between the majority of the population and the top richest percentile. The movement began to gain momentum in mid-May in Spain after protests and demonstrations towards similar beliefs took place. By the end of that month, it was suggested that a worldwide protest was necessary, scheduled for October 15, 2011. A few months later, Adbusters lent its support to that idea and suggested the occupation of Wall Street as a symbol of corporate greed. It was around this time that the first Occupy camp was set up in Kuala Lumpur. Occupy Dataran began on July 30, 2011. Another group that supported the Occupy movement early on was Anonymous. This international hacking group promoted the idea of full-scale occupations involving tents, kitchens, and communities in occupied areas. They were also instrumental in promoting the idea to their followers. On September 17th, Occupy movements popped up on both Wall Street in New York City and in San Francisco. These were the installations of Occupy that really earned the movement widespread publicity. The movement grew exponentially from there, and on October 15th, protests took place as planned around the world based on the same beliefs. By the end of that month, over 2,000 cities across the globe were housing Occupy sites. The Occupy movement grew organically and with great help from the internet and social media.
These movements have happened before in the past, but they've all kind of floundered. And what's keeping us alive, what's keeping us together is the internet. The fact that we're able to communicate and the fact that we're able to garner support from across the world at a moment's notice really is very, very helpful.
A related idea popped up in November. Bank Transfer Day called on consumers to transfer their money out of big banks to smaller credit unions. This idea was sparked by Bank of America's and Wells Fargo's choices to begin charging fees for debit card use. The bad publicity caused the banks to ditch the idea. Bank Transfer Day took place on November 5th and resulted in an estimated 40,000 joining credit unions on that day alone. After a month of widespread protests, some condemned Occupy for losing focus and support. Other movements joined forces with Occupy, but ultimately served to dilute an already unclear set of demands. Anarchists, communists, and others were reportedly using Occupy as a mask for their own beliefs and activities. The movement was also criticized for its hygiene, and many of the tented communities became makeshift homeless shelters. As the protests progressed, city officials and police around the world lost patience and attempted to evict the occupiers, sometimes by force or by violent means. By mid-November, many groups were being driven out of occupation. Whether or not the Occupy movement does manage to change the system, there's no denying it was one of the biggest news stories of 2011.
Very good. So Occupy really definitely has made a difference in the world because of the discussion that it brings up. Just a very, the instance of them creating a video talking all about it being a big story, well, that just confirms everything. It is a big story. It's still going on. Nothing has ended. The problems are still going on, and people are still going to be rising up against the problems all around the world. Now, little by little, one of the good things that's coming out of this is that those on one side of the fence eventually make their way across to the other once they start to hear and understand what's going on. It's like we've seen military personnel out there, vets, making their way out to the Occupy movements. We've seen elderly folks making their way out there. And the biggest challenge that they've had is with the police standing up against them, sometimes using brutality and beating on them. Well, this story here comes to us from RT, and it's crossing lines, police lines. U.S. cops defect to Operation Wall Street. Let's listen to what happens here.
Occupy protests across the U.S. so far, but even the police are starting to defect to the other side. Our correspondent Marina Portnaya has been finding out why. Some people have been choosing to make history instead of making arrests.
Occupy Wall Street has become an undeniable American household name. And police crackdowns against the democratic movement have become something of the norm. Not so normal is seeing one side endorse the other. Retired Philadelphia police captain Ray Lewis became the game changer on November 17th. Arrested while demonstrating with Occupy protesters on the streets of New York City, the 24-year veteran was held in police custody for 11 hours and received one comment from a New York cop.
Nobody talked to me. This one individual said that I had the testicles of an elephant.
Although all of America's police force is part of the 99%, Captain Lewis says cops secretly supporting OWS face dire consequences by going public.
A tremendous fear of losing their job, being disciplined, being fired. And then what do? Everybody in the 99% has that fear. And police officers also. They cannot risk. They have children, they have wives. What would they do? Once they're fired, there are no jobs available.
The nighttime raid on Zuccotti Park and subsequent arrest of dozens of journalists covering the story are among many reasons Captain Lewis says he temporarily transplanted to Manhattan.
That's close to dictatorship. When you exclude the media, that's what dictators around the world do, and that is very scary.
Brutal scare tactics such as pepper spray, batons, and flash grenade canisters have been used against Occupy camps throughout the U.S. Oakland, California resembled something of an urban war zone this fall, leaving a war vet in critical condition and the eyes of an 84-year-old burning from tear gas. Oakland police officer Fred Chavez is the only active cop who's gone on record with his support.
I totally agree with Occupy Wall Street, even to an extent with Occupy Oakland. I am a part of the 99%. For the most part, people are peaceful and they want to see change.
Many believe the biggest change could come when or if U.S. law enforcement officials stop suppressing the right to assemble and begin supporting it. Despite his arrest, Captain Lewis is back at Zuccotti Park showing unwavering support for the Occupy movement. Standing roughly 10 or 15 feet away from him, a group of New York City police officers. Yes, they're here securing the area, but some are beginning to show a little interest.
For the first time, I had an officer break ranks yesterday at the barricade line, a white officer named Officer Murray, and he introduced himself and he started to ask me a few questions. I said, "Do you know the risk you're taking?" And he was so brave that he said, "Hey, this is still America, and until a supervisor orders me back to the line, I'm going to talk with you." I hope to get mainstream America involved, the police involved, realizing that we're all victims of corporate America, and that corporate America has got to be stopped.
Marina Portnaya, RT, New York.
All right, we have a smart officer there that is helping others to understand what's really going on, and it'd be nice to see when more and more of these officers join with the ranks. All right, now here's another story. It's good to see that, officers out there are understanding when what they are doing is not making sense, that they stand up against it. And here is a good example of that kind of story. This comes to us from UPI.com. Deputies won't evict a 103-year-old woman. Atlanta, November 30th. Sheriff's deputies in Atlanta didn't carry out an eviction order after discovering that they were sent to remove a 103-year-old woman from her home, officials said. Vida Lee, who is just 3 weeks short of her 104th birthday, shares a house in northwest Atlanta with her 83-year-old daughter. Fulton County Sheriff's deputies and a moving company hired by Deutsche Bank showed up at Lee's house Tuesday, intending to kick her out. But after taking a look at Lee and her daughter, they changed their minds, said community activist Michael Langford. I saw the sheriffs who came to put them out, take off and leave, Langford said. Lee's daughter was so upset by the prospect of eviction that she had to be rushed to the hospital. Lee told WSB that she is hopeful things can be worked out with the bank. Good story. Now that is a good story. Like I said, it's good to see when officers are using their sense to understand whether they are given a rule that is constitutional or unconstitutional. In this case, the bank, the same situation as Operation Wall Street, is standing up against the Wall Street banks, amongst other things. This is a similar situation. A bank wants to take a house away from somebody. So they use the police in the same way that on Wall Street, the banks are using the police to stand up to enforce their policies and take away people's rights to assemble. And in this case, officers stepped up and said, nope, this is not right. We're not going to listen to the banks and put this 103-year-old woman out in the street or her 82-year-old daughter. Thank goodness that there are officers out there that still do have the ability to look inside and figure this out and that are courageous about that. So my hat's off to them. They should be commended for that activity, and any police officers that step up in this day and age. I understand what the officer, says is true, that police officers out there have to deal with the same issues as everybody else. As part of the 99%. They have to be worried about their job, because if they lose their job and they have a family, they have a lot to lose through the process. They don't want to lose that. So because they don't want to lose that, that is what is dangled over their head. They're threatened on losing that if they speak out against what their force is doing. Yet the force is doing something corrupt and illegal that is being fostered and encouraged by those that are on Wall Street that people are out there complaining about in the first place. So when the police stop protecting the bankers and realize, as some of them are doing, that they are actually part of the 99% themselves, things will change. That's what's going to be the next turning point. Police officers waking up, because they're going to be screwed just like everyone else, probably worse, unless they wake up, because they're the ones caught in the middle, think that they're part of the 1%. They're not. They'll be discarded so quickly that they'll be surprised. So they need to get with the program. It's good to see that is happening. All right, our next story here. This comes to us from the New York Times. Mainstream media is talking about Fukushima. From out of Tokyo, it says molten nuclear fuel may have bored into the floor of at least one of the reactors at the stricken Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. The complex operator said Wednesday, citing a new simulation of the accident that crippled the plant in March. The simulation suggested that the meltdown may have been more severe than previously thought. Soon after an earthquake and a tsunami on March 11th knocked out cooling systems at the power plant, nuclear fuel rods in 3 of the 6 reactors overheated and slumped the operator, he said. In the number 1 reactor, the overheated fuel may have eroded primary containment vessel's thick concrete floor, and it may have gotten almost within a foot of crucial steel barrier. The utility said the new simulation suggested beneath the steel is a concrete basement, which is the last barrier before the fuel would have begun to penetrate the earth. Now you can see the article goes on and on. We've talked about this a number of times. If you've been paying attention here and other alternative news, you already know how bad this is and what really is taking place out there. Finally, you see that the New York Times, months later, is finally catching up to speed and putting the story out. So all those who don't pay attention, they're finally getting information that a lot of you already know. So it's good to see the mainstream catching up. It'd be nice to know if they could keep up on a more regular basis. All right, and the very last story I'm going to do, I found this one in line with our story of the Rapture. This is called, it says the $1 bill shows Rapture, World War III, Mark of the Beast, etc., etc. So I thought this itself was pretty darn interesting, and you might enjoy watching this. All right, so let me go ahead and play this. All right, here we go.
Hi everyone. I'm going to show here on the dollar bill seal that it actually shows the mark of the beast coming. It'll show that America is Babylon, or the daughter of Babylon, which will be destroyed at the beginning of tribulation. And I'm going to show that it's all actually right here on the seal of the $1 bill, excuse me, which they instituted in 1935. It's the same year they brought out the swastika too over in Germany. And as you notice here, we have the obviously the pyramid. Now, when you link these two, now you see this is. Don't worry, I'm not going to stop here. But you see these two are linked together now. Now I've been looking for a lot of places to try to get this linked together correctly to show this, and a gentleman has gone and done that on another video. So we're going to go ahead and show that on his, and I'll leave a link to him as he does what he explains, what he sees, and I'm going to explain what I see for it. Now he has this, excuse me, exactly like what I wanted to portray it, and this is showing that America as Babylon destroyed, and this is all right on the seal. It's been there since 1935, since they've done it on there. And I'm going to go kind of slow here and show some of these things. Now on here, you're going to notice, let's do the big picture first. Now, one of the things about seeing the pictures is being able to see the one picture and then concentrate on it. Do you see this whole thing here? Do you see this right here inside of this? Like this is his arm now. This big guy here is his arm. And this right here in here is the warrior pope, the Antichrist. He's wearing like a warrior's outfit and he's got the pope hat on. See him right there? See him right inside of the arms there? This guy's like Captain America even after the thing. See, he's got his shield on his arm. It's on his forearm. Now the thing about this is it's also showing this guy. See, he's got like a Zippo lighter. I can connect this to the Freemasons later on. And I'll show you what that is. It's the 47th problem of Euclid. But it looks like a Zippo lighter. And they're lighting the Bill of Rights and the Constitution on fire. Right here they're showing them lighting the Bill of Rights and Constitution on fire for each thing. While the warrior pope is here in his arms. And I'll show this. There's several different pictures in here. This is also showing the rapture right here. As this line comes down, I'll have to dig into this later tomorrow. I don't have time to do all of this in there. It'll take a little bit of drawing. If you dig into this, I'll show you that the star Sirius is represented in here. And it's showing the rapture at the beginning of tribulation here. Of this. And you see the warrior pope right here. Probably him at the Denver airport or something. And see, this all starts out, it shows with maybe a false flag event. You see how now the shield is a rocket. There's several different pictures. You concentrate on one and the other. Now it's a rocket, and it's done slammed into America here on the west coast and on the east coast. It shows it, and here's the flames going up. This is destroying the old world order. They need to destroy the Constitution and the Bill of Rights to start the new world order, to bring in the mark of the beast. Now also I say, once you concentrate on something else, you see something else. Inside of here is a skull. And you can see the skull right here. You see the man's skull? See the skull of the man? And then this thing here with the eagle on it, it's putting a mark on his forehead. Do you see the mark on his forehead? Zip. Right there. I could show this later on. I'll show what more and tell about later on. See how it's on there? See, he's putting the mark right on his forehead right there. Each picture is different. You concentrate on one, you concentrate on the next one. See how in there? So he's putting a mark on his forehead. Now it also shows the guillotines. Right here, if you look inside of here, here is a lady or a woman, and it's an angel. You see how the wings are? And he's having this thing here now is a barcode machine. This is reading your forehead. You see the woman here or the guy, the angel? He's bent over, putting his forehead on the machine, and this is now a guillotine, chopping his head off. See the guillotine? See the person. Up. He's getting the mark of the beast. If he doesn't, he gets his head cut off on there. Okay, so we showed each one of those. Now the last one I'll show, and another one, it'll show that this is a hand reaching up right here. And the hand is going, this is your barcode machine. You see the little souls all going all the way back around? It's because they'll believe in reincarnation later. See the hand right there on the side? It's getting the barcode machine. In the right hand, that's the right hand. In the right hand, or in the forehead of the one. Now the other thing on here, it shows dates. Have you seen it yet? There it is. There's you a date. I don't like to do dates, and there's a date. 2011. There's only 30 days or so left in this year, 2011. 2011. See it right on there. This 1 is very pronounced in there when you get a good look at it, along with that 1. But the other thing is it does show a 2012. I'm not going to just bend and say, hey, it shows all just 2011. It shows a 2012 too. See how the 2 becomes another 2, 2, 12, 2012. And does that mean destruction now on 2011? Who knows? I'm going to go through this real quick once again, because I'm going to go to the next one. Him. He's getting the mark on his forehead. Got the hand over here. You can see the woman in there. I can do a lot more with this thing. I can even, if I flip it over, I'll show you, instead of Captain America, it'll actually show that it's the Ghost Rider. I can turn this over and it'll be like he's riding a Harley Davidson, and he's the Ghost Rider, and he is taking souls and cutting people's heads off. Okay, now the next one. This is the finished product. This is the end. The other one was where where the thing was fallen. You can see down here where the destruction is. This is actually the statue of what the beast is going to be that you're going to have to worship. See the hand over on that side? I'll get my hand because this is my finish here. Tomorrow I'm going to show much, much more on this. I'll dig in there and I'll show you all of the other pictures on there. See the hand? Now that they've gone and cut everybody's head off, it's there. See? And this is the barcode machine. This is the eye, and the eagle here is what the statue is that you're going to have to worship after the rapture if you didn't make it. Or get your head cut off to ascend back up. Okay, thanks a lot everybody, and I'll redo a lot more of this, and we'll dig into some of the other hidden pictures that I can actually show inside of there. There's a lot more hidden ones even in this one right here. Tons of them. One of the ways that you can look at things is once you catch one picture, say you catch this picture, don't let the other picture get involved in you. Just look at that. And then when you're done with it, shake your head loose and find another picture in there so they don't get stuck together. Then that's how they do it. Then you can see the other picture that's in there without the one interfering with you. Look at that. They're putting that right on that guy's skull. This has been on here since 1935, this seal. Okay, thank you very much, and God bless you.
All right. All right. Very, very interesting, isn't it, to see how you can break dollar bills down in money currency and just see the symbols in there. Are they true? Are they not? I don't know. All I know is that there's a lot of people that are referencing them as being somewhat important and showing things that we are all aware of as our story unfolds. All right, last but not least, let's get into our meditation for today. Let's go ahead and close your eyes and relax. Okay. Let's just imagine, really simply, that we are seated in a field. And as we are seated in this field, with our eyes closed, let's just imagine all our chakras are activated. Starting with the bottom of the spine, color is red. Raise the energy up to the chakra above it, orange. To the chakra above that, in the just below the rib cage, yellow. Higher to the heart, imagine the color green at the heart chakra. All the way up to the throat, imagine the color blue. To the third eye, violet, and finally the crown chakra, the top of your head, indigo, turning to white as it continues on. And there you are, connected above and below, connected to all of God's creation. And as you go inside, you understand more of the divine plan, because by listening inside, you actually hear the inner voice of the teacher, God, the master builder. Let's imagine ourselves walking along the path, looking behind to see how far you have come, and then looking ahead to see how much further you have to go until it is time to sit down and have a rest. We've almost made it through this week, my friends. Just a little bit more to go. And let's just simply think good thoughts for people of the world today. As we begin a new month, as we approach the Christmas season all around the world, let us just simply wish a good day for everybody on the planet today. Because everybody is going through the same situation. We're all walking the same path. Though there are many different ways to walk the path, we are all on the same path. And the more we wish each other good vibes, the more we work together, the better we're going to be. So as we're thinking good thoughts for everyone in the world, let's bring our energy and attention back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1, coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. That is our prayer and our meditation for today, my friends. Thank you very much for being here. I'll be back tomorrow with more news information. Check out the links. Follow the rest of the stories from today. They're all at firstcontactradio.com. Right-hand side, you got the UFO news. Every day our stories are up there, and the daily news, the stories are up there as well, so you can follow them. And it'll lead you to our YouTube page where you can find all of the shows that we have done for the last, seems like forever. 540 some odd shows are available for you on archive. Some at YouTube, and then, of course, most of them all at Blog Talk Radio. But again, you can find all of these links to these places from our main page, firstcontactradio.com. Anyway, it's time for me to stop rambling and get on the road. So you have a great day today. I'll be back tomorrow. Peace. I'm out of here.